Blake and then Dustin from DB Creation. We are longtime friends. They have been amazing developers for our devices. I'll just hand over to the microphone to Dustin and Blake. Let them to do the introduction.
There you go.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And yeah, thanks to Nreal for having us today. We're really excited to be hanging out at the booth with you all. And we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the game that we built to put on the Nreal glasses, which we call Table Trenches, which is a fun and casual strategy game that's out right now on the Nreal Lite and the Nreal Airs. My name is Dustin Kokensparger, like Bill said, and this is my co-founder, Blake Gross, and together we run DB Creations, a fully remote AR game studio based in Bellevue, Washington. And we're all about building really cool and awesome, fun AR games for mobile devices as well as headsets. So these are a few of the games that we've built over the years, and something we've been asked a lot is like, why do we want to build AR games in general? Like, isn't it too early to be building AR games? And really for us, the answer is no. We think right now is a really good time to be building AR games. The first of all is we love working on cutting edge technology, stuff that's just coming out, that's brand new. We want to bring games to those platforms and be really excited about them. We really like to find these new trends and build games that are going to be something people can be really excited about as they're checking out this new technology. Another thing is we think AR truly is the next big disruptive technology that's going to be out there today. You know, it's becoming bigger and bigger on many platforms. We see millions of people using AR on Snapchat right now, and also, you know, with the addition of LiDAR cameras into phones, there's really never been a better time to be building AR content right now. And finally, and I think maybe most importantly to this booth, are here right now. These tables, you can buy them from Amazon.com and try them out. And so for us, that's a really big indicator that AR is here to stay, it's growing, it's going to be massive, and we want to keep building awesome games for it. So back in 2018, when we were really thinking about building an AR title, which we call Table Trenches, we were really thinking about how can we make a strategy game that fits to the actual world that somebody wants to play the game in, putting it right onto their table where they're going to be able to enjoy an experience like this. We wanted to build a simple and fun strategy game that was able to be transformative and bring the game right into people's worlds. We originally launched the game in 2020 on iOS, Android, and the Nreal Lite glasses, and then we did a port in 2022 to bring it to the Nreal Airs as well, so you can get on all of the Nreal platforms today. And as of right now, we've seen about 13,000 people who've tried the game so far, which we think feels pretty good for an AR-only game. You can't play on any other way. And so I'm going to show you a quick trailer of the game in action, running on the Nreal Lite. Oh, we even have audio. Look at that. That's nice. So as you can see in the game is all about deploying units into lanes to defend your tower and attack the enemy. The game takes place on the actual person's table that we scan using the glasses, and it lets you resize it to fit any surface so that it looks like it lines up super well. And we support hand tracking as well as phone for controller input. So I'll just let that finish playing. This is the same length video, right? Okay, good. Perfect. All right, so now that you've seen kind of how the game works a little bit, I want to talk about some of the learnings that we gained from building Table Trenches on the platform. First, we're going to talk about what I call the magic of AR, which is something that I'm most excited about when working in this space. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges and constraints that you run into when building for AR. And finally, we're going to talk about one of the key challenges that you run into, minimizing time to play for people that want to actually build stuff for AR. But first, we'll start off with my favorite one, which is the magic of AR. So for us, and I think for a lot of people that work in the space, AR truly is magic brought to life. When it's done correctly, it's unlike anything else in the world. It really is bringing incredible ideas directly to the player's actual understanding of the space that they're in. And for us, this is amazing. Unlike VR, where the player is taken to a completely different place or a different experience, AR brings this new reality into the player's actual world and actual space, which is something that's completely new and different to what they might have seen before. And for us, this is amazing. But to take full advantage of this fact, AR games have to remember that it's augmented reality, not replacing reality completely. So when you're building your AR experiences, you can make sure you're enhancing and improving what the player is seeing, not just trying to cover it all up. As you see with our game, you know, we're not trying to cover up the entire table. We're trying to put something on top of it and make something fit that space that is additive, you know, not completely replacing. And one of the things we did in Table Trenches to make sure that we could do this well was we added a bunch of resizing tools so that when players put the game map into their world, they can resize it easily so it fits their space directly and feels like a more accurate augmentation of what they're doing. The other piece that's really important to us is this multiplayer piece. So Table Trenches is a 2-player local game, so you can both play together. And we think this enhances the magic of AR even more. By having 2 people that are kind of involved in this, what I like to call a shared hallucination, where you're both seeing AR content in your real world, and the things that both players do are changing how the world is changing by putting things into it. It really makes things feel even more immersive in a way that's kind of hard to quantify, but as soon as you see it happen when somebody else is dropping digital stuff into the world just like you are, it really enhances the experience. That's something we like to really focus on at DB Creations, is finding that magic moment where multiple people are playing together. However, it can't all be super rosy and fun right now. There are constraints when we're working in this space. And so there's a lot of different things you have to think about. I won't get super deep or exhaustive into all of them, but just know that when you're building for AR, you are also working against constraints, as this technology is brand new. Something that we think about a lot as an example is battery life. Whether for mobile or for glasses, or if the glasses are run off of mobile, you're asking people to use up part of their precious battery life that gets their phone through their day to play a game that's going to be using up a lot of that battery power. And so for us, that meant focusing on making a game that's shorter and able to fit into bite-sized moments during the day, so you can have an awesome experience, but not be worried that you're not going to get a text from your wife at the end of the day. And things like that are something we think about a lot. And we're constantly evaluating these limits as new technologies come out, as platforms improve, to figure out how can we make games that work within the new set of constraints that we're having to deal with as the platforms grow and evolve. And finally, as I mentioned, one of the biggest constraints that applies to any of these experiences today is thinking about minimizing time to play. And what that means for us is just, we're thinking about an AR game that has to be aware of the world in some way. You need to be able to have the player scan the world or otherwise understand the space that the game's going to be taking place in. That way we know where to put things, we know how to make the world make sense, all of that. That takes time. And as anybody who's ever built a mobile game knows, anything that is time between player hits button and player gets to have awesome experience is a bad thing. So for us, something we notice a lot is that that scan phase can be up to a 50% drop off of users. So when you're building for an AR experience, make sure that you're getting people into the action as soon as you possibly can. Do things on the fly in the background later. Do whatever you can to get them doing something fun, seeing that magical experience right away, so they don't look at this and say, oh, this is a scan flow, I don't know what that means, I don't understand what I'm doing, and they leave and disappear. They're not going to play your game. That's pretty unfortunate. So thinking about that a lot as you're thinking about building your own AR experience is really important. And I just want to end my little piece of this by saying all of this is extremely iterative. You can see here, this is kind of the journey of Table Trenches, to start off from a napkin sketch to prototypes to being a tabletop game to being brought to an entire living room space. And that's going to be how this is going to work as you're building for AR. You have to work with the constraints of the platform, understand how it's changing as you might even be developing, be able to be adaptive, work on the fly, build, improve, and grow. For our team, that means a lot of doing weekly playtesting of the build, talking about it as a team, understanding how it's working, what's not working, what we need to change, what might be changing around us, and how we adapt so when we ship our product, it's the best possible thing we can build for the platform. And now, I'm going to pass it over to Blake, who's going to talk about some of the technical ways that we handled bringing Table Trenches to Nreal.
Thanks, Dustin. Yeah, so I want to talk about a little bit about what it's like to take a game, an AR game that already exists on mobile for ARKit and AR Core, and bring it to a more immersive platform like the Nreal AR glasses. So here we have the editor view of our game. Now, we were able to port most of Table Trenches to the Nreal glasses without even having the devices on hand. This is because Nreal has a robust editor mode, so that while you're in the Unity editor, you can actually build out most of your experience to be compatible with the Nreal glasses. Here, we are using the table that's in the test scene in order to be able to have that as our core play space in the user, and we were able to iterate on most of our UX here. However, nothing replaces the real thing, and so once we got the actual glasses, we were able to verify what we had built in the editor and solve some additional UX problems. To talk a bit about some of the UX problems we had, I want to illustrate a specific case, which is how our plane scan worked. Now, in Table Trenches, what we really wanted to do was make it so that we could turn players' tables or other surfaces into the main play space and the experience for our game. In order to make it so that players could better do this, we created a series of alignment tools to make it so that whatever we detected or the system detected would actually match the actual play space, as well as be at a comfortable distance for them to play at. So a few of the things that we did in the mobile version is we made it so that where you tapped, the plane would adjust to, the play surface would adjust to. You could rotate it using 2 fingers. We allowed you to change the aspect ratio of the actual play space. This actually changed the way the game was played because it changed the actual size of the lanes. We added a uniform scale slider so that the entire experience would get larger or smaller. This was really important in plain scale AR. And then finally, we added the ability for players to retry. So we were trying to do an approximation based on where they were actually pointing their device. And retry would basically choose a different point that we thought was a better approximation of where they actually wanted to play. Now, when bringing this to the Nreal glasses, it was really how do we move all of these controls over, but move it to an actual device. For translation, we use the raycast pointer. So the main mode of input for the Nreal Lite is a phone controller, which acts as a 3DOF controller where you have a pointer into the world. Additionally, we also support hand controls, and the hand controls also act by having a pointer into the world. And we kind of really only support ray-based interactions, so either the hand or the phone are equally supported. The dev kit also had a puck that we use as well. So based on where the ray is pointing, we adjust the plane to that translation. And then we actually use screen space controls to control the rotation and the uniform scale. So if the player wants to rotate the plane, they simply do a really normal to mobile user's rotation gesture, a scale gesture for the uniform scale, and then for the extents, we actually do use that ray cast into the world pointer for where they collide with the actual target to be able to stretch the plane as they want. And then we also support the retarget functionality. The final thing I want to talk about around the plane scan flow is how we used it to figure out where the UI would be in the world. A non-trivial issue when trying to figure out how you take a game from mobile and put it into AR is what do you do with the UI? Here we came up with what we call a plane-centric UI, which is that the UI in our game is always going to be centered around where the user defined their play space is. This is really nice because it always gives a centralized location for the user to look for where they know all of their interactions with the game are going to be. However, something to think about in 3D is you need to think about how can the user interact with this no matter where they're at in the play space. So the UI always follows them using a technique called billboarding. Now note, we only really billboard around the y-axis because that makes it more comfortable for users. Additionally, something we've added since we took this video is we make it so that the UI auto-scales, so that it always fits within the FOV of the headset, so it's always at a comfortable degree when the user is playing with it. Otherwise, it might be too big or too small to be able to interact with. Finally, I wanted to talk about our implementation with the Nreal Air glasses. So we originally built for the Nreal Lite, which is a full 6DOF AR headset, but the more popular unit is the Nreal Airs. Now the Nreal Airs are 3DOF, meaning they don't have tracking cameras, but we still wanted to be able to support this headset for the vast number of users that are on it. And in fact, when we made a post announcing 3DOF support for table trenches on the Nreal Air, it was one of the most top upvoted posts on the Nreal subreddit. The way that it works for the Nreal Air is that we have a fixed plane in the world where the game is simply right in front of the players based on where they're looking. This makes it so it doesn't actually align with an actual play surface, but it does provide a comfortable way for people to play in 3DOF. And the nice thing is if you're seated anyways, it does feel like it's actually situated in the world still. Additionally, we give players the full range of controls that they have for plane definition like they have normally, so they can change the aspect ratio and the scale to try and make it more comfortable or fit their space. And then finally, we have multiplayer support for Nreal Air that works with Nreal Lite and any of the other Android headsets. So it doesn't really matter where you're playing, everyone can play together. Thank you so much for attending our talk, and we'll be here for a bit, and we'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
By the way, guys, if you guys want to try the turbo trenches, we have a set it up over there. Feel free to try the turbo trenches. It's really, really nice. Questions? Anytime?
You covered it all.
Alrighty. Congrats.
Thanks, Bill.